being off the schedule messes me up. Our Monday's meeting, which was rescheduled until today so that our employees could have a full weekend's holiday. Would you call the roll, please? Jenny?
Director Teeters?
Here.
Harris?
Here.
Tim Johnson is absent. Odom?
Here.
Minor is absent. And Peavy?
Here.
And Mayor Bill.
Aye. I want you to know that our city manager is not here because his mother is critically ill. She's been moved to the hospice unit there at the hospital. And there was a death in Director Minor's family, and her family is in, her children are in. So she regrets that she's unable to attend today. Would you please stand for the invocation, and Director Harris will lead the Pledge of Allegiance afterwards. Father in heaven, we thank you for your many blessings. We thank you for rain. We thank you for the absence of serious storms. We thank you, oh God, that we are able to be here to serve this city. I ask, dear Father, that you give us wisdom, direction, and correction as it is needed. Be with us through the remainder of this meeting. May it be for the good of this city and to please you in all that you ask us to do. Ask this in the name of Jesus. Amen.
Amen. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
You may be seated. We'd like to welcome you to this meeting today, and please note, Ms. Narns, that there is a quorum present. You may speak on any item that we are considering. You will be given the chance for that time. So if you will bear with us, there will be the regularly scheduled citizen communication time at the end of the meeting. You'll be allowed 5 minutes, and we have gotten our buzzer fixed. I was unable to see at the last meeting the time as it expired, and I think some of the times went on forever. But we have reactivated that, and each person will be allowed 5 minutes. And as long as you address the entire board and not one specific board member, your comments will be welcomed. And as long as they are civil and respectful, we'll try to be civil and respectful to you. We have some things to acknowledge. You know that we already had our Sparks in the Park, which was a big success. I attended, and I have never seen so many people in one spot in a long time. And it's always nice because I see people that I ordinarily don't see. Those people who have families and they don't have the money to go out for entertainment. It's really, really, really nice to see them out there having a good time, admitted free. So the band that performed, all of the rides and things were free. The only thing anyone had to spend money for was either drinks or food if they chose to do so. If they chose to bring their own, that was okay as well. So it was a community event that I think everybody enjoyed. Of course, we had Bandit Run and several other things going on in our city. And I just got this letter recently, and if you will allow me, I would like to read this because I think it says something that probably the entire city needs to know. Starts out to my Honorable Mayor, Ruth Penny Bell. Recently, on June 20th, the Public Works crew, headed up by Charles, cut down a dangerous dead tree across the street from my house on I'm not sure. Does anyone know where Mr. Thacker lives? Grand Avenue? Okay. The crew was second to none. They were very courteous and all worked together as a team. Some of the limbs and debris fell into my yard, in which they cleaned up and made sure I was happy. I would like to commend this department for the work that they do. With limited funds and staff, they have to work with complaints about potholes in our streets, which is not their fault. It's due to taxes and budget cuts, which they have no control over. I feel honored to live in a city with the best of the best. Mayor, city council, city manager, city staff, police, fire, public works, water and sewer, parks department, and anyone else that he missed. Take time when you see these people to stop and say thank you for the job that they do. Remember, it's we the people who make the city what it is. It's signed by James Thacker, proud to be a Texarkana, Arkansas resident. Now, if that doesn't make you feel good, nothing will. So thank you, Mr. Thacker, for commending our street department. They do an outstanding job, and they are to be commended. I've never, ever seen them halfway do anything. Are there any comments from the directors or anything that anyone would like to bring up at this point? If not, we have some presentations today, and let's see if we have anyone here. Are both of them here?
Just one.
Just one.
One is on vacation.
Regina Holzer. Regina, congratulations on having served 5 years for the Public Works Department. And if you can hang out with those guys, you must be a strong woman. Thank you so much, and we want to thank you for your service. The other person who was to be acknowledged was Brandy Shooting, and she has served for 5 years with the Public Works Department. So we'll make sure, Jeff, that you get her little certificate she gets.
I have it.
Thank you. Thank you. Our consent agenda, we have been asked by Director Harris to take off item B to be discussed, so we shall take that off the consent agenda. Yes, sir?
I'm gonna withdraw that request because the city manager's not here. I had some questions to ask him.
Okay,
about it.
so we will vote on the consent agenda as is printed on your agenda. The first item is the approval of the minutes of the regular meeting, June the 19th, 2017. And the B item is adopt a resolution amending the FY 2017 budget, resolution number 2016-74, to make adjustments to the 2017 Community Development Block Grant budget allocation. Do I hear a motion that we adopt the consent agenda?
Motion to adopt.
And is there a second?
Second.
There is a motion and a second that we adopt the consent agenda. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, like sign. The consent agenda is adopted. Our regular agenda is item number 9, and this is to adopt an ordinance authorizing and directing the city manager to adjust the Public Works Department fees. Director Jeff Whitten, do you have anything that you would like to add to this before we bring it up for consideration?
Good afternoon, Mayor, Board of Directors. The only thing was that Section 8 that dealt with garage sale items requested that be removed. or
Okay.
Not adopted as part of this.
So you would like to amend this ordinance to exclude Section 8, which deals with garage sales.
Yes, ma'am.
So otherwise, you have no other objection to this.
No, ma'am.
Is there anyone who would like to speak to this after it is read? Thank you, Mr. Whitten. Would you read this for us, please?
An ordinance clarifying, adjusting, and approving certain fees to be charged by the city of Texarkana, Arkansas, and for other purposes.
Now, is there anyone who would like to speak to this? Yes, sir. Mr. Jewell. Come and state your name and address so that we will have that in our minutes.
Danny Jewell, Texarkana, Arkansas. I want to talk about the building permits as it relates specifically to commercial construction. I was reading in the paper where the staff was proposing increases. I thought the city was due some nominal increases, some updated, but as I began to review those increases and apply it to a project that I have in mind, 12,000 square foot building, my costs go up probably $2,000. In that the building permit now goes up from around $860 something to $1,600. Now, I don't know exactly what that gets me as far as what's involved in a building permit. I've always thought that kind of included inspections and this type of thing. But, okay, that's an $800 or $1,000 increase right there, just the building permit. But also, as it relates to the mechanical, heat and air, plumbing, and electrical, my increase is from a few $100s to $600 per each. That's $1,800 versus probably a few $100s for electrical, heat and air, and plumbing. Also, the plumbing fees is, the base fee goes up from $25 to the $600. Plus, I'm also charged, according to my reading of the ordinance, a per item, per tap sewer in addition to that $600 fee. Now again, my cost, if I built that building today, as best I can figure, would be $1,200, $1,300, $1,400. It now will cost me roughly $3,600. That to me is a little more than a
Modest increase.
modest increase, yes. I mean, that's, I call around several cities, Arkansas, Malvern, Hope, Little Rock, several. Some of them are kind of in line with what the staff is recommending, the square foot basis on the plumbing, the electrical, and all that. But most aren't. Most are charged a considerably less, like Fort Smith, Arkansas, charges $500 for a building permit. Of course, they have the other costs you add on, so, but that's a city that's a lot bigger than Texarkana, Arkansas. One of the advantages that I have trying to sell my property out on 67 up by the airport to put that building on is our permits are cheaper on the Arkansas side. Well, with this happening, that's not going to be the case. As it stacks up against Texarkana, Texas, I'm going to be paying up more than what Texarkana, Texas, the best I feel. I'm going to be paying more than if I put the building in Malvern, Arkansas, which is, I think, only about $11,000 to $12,000. Jonesboro, another city considerably larger than Texarkana, 60-something thousand. I'll be paying more right here in Texarkana with 29,000 people, 30,000 people. The fees proposed by the staff, I mean, I don't know how involved the city board was in these decisions, but how was the 5% arrived at versus 3% versus 4%, or 4 cents, not percent, 4 cents? And the increase in the building permit alone jumps, again, in this situation, up more than double. To me, that's too much of an increase at one time. I mean, this is something that the board can address yearly or whatever, to upgrade it. I don't think that, I mean, as it relates to my specific project, yes, I can save a little money
Yeah,
if I don't go into that.
your time has expired, Mr. Jewell. Let me get our Public Works Director up here, because I think that we do need some clarification on percentages, but thank you, Mr. Jewell.
Can I ask Mr. Jewell a question?
Yes, certainly.
When did you become aware of this ordinance?
I read the article in the paper, I guess, after the second meeting, so at that point I decided that I
Wanted to come,
determined exactly what, as it relates to this one building and see how. But again, reading the article, I thought that until these new fees were proposed, which are just exorbitant increase, I thought there wasn't much to it, maybe a few $100s more, but I'm paying a couple thousand.
And my other question was, could you distinguish between what was new fee and what was already existing?
Yes. Yeah, I mean, after a little study, you have to pull up the ordinances. Yes, you can determine.
So you're saying yours is going from around 1,400 under the old fees to about 3,600 under the new fees? Did I hear you correctly?
Well, about 1,800.
May I explain what I want to do with my question? And she
I'm
went
sorry. Okay.
No, I wanted to say, you said, did you compare the numbers?
But I was asking the question.
Okay.
I'm sorry, Director
I was
Harris.
asking point of order. When I
Director
just-
Harris, would you like to continue?
Okay. And was you, when did you talk to in Public Works, anybody prior to this meeting? And what was their comments on that?
Well, I didn't get an opportunity to explain a whole lot. I
Okay.
asked them what cities they were and how they arrived at the cents per square foot. And I think the comment was that it was comparison with other cities, and the only one that they shared with me at that time was Arkansas. I think some of them were Texas-based cities. My comparison, I thought, was more appropriate to be in Arkansas. So, but in all fairness, I didn't give Public Works an opportunity to refute a whole lot what I was doing, because I saw that I was running out of time with the third reading, and so I'm here today hoping that the city board would take another look at this, and you know, I think a little more study needs to be done as to how the numbers come up with, because they seem to be out of line with the other cities that I contacted.
Are you finished, Director Harris?
All right, thank you.
Director Teeters, did you have a question?
No, Director Harris asked a question, and I was just clarifying. I think you answered it. You said yours, as best you could figure, would have been 1,400 under the current policy, and they went to 3,600 with the new fees. Is that?
I think it's about, I've got the notes somewhere.
I wrote that.
I wrote that down. You said it went from 12 to 14 to you think 3,600, and I just want to make sure that I wrote the numbers down correctly.
I've got it.
'Cause you addressed that, I
It's
think.
almost double.
Okay.
Well, let me see. The way I figure it, the building permit, now, the building permit alone, forgetting about the electrical and all that, goes from $880 today, the building permit, if I were building that building, the same building today, with a new proposal would be $1,809.
Okay.
Now, that's not including electrical, plumbing, so there's other costs, both of those, but as we sit here today, my permit for the electrical, plumbing, heat, and air will be a few $100s versus $1,800 for those three under the new, in addition to the.
And you said the building permit, if I wrote it down correctly, went from $860 to $1,600. Did I write that down incorrectly?
I've got my notes, notes.
Okay.
Currently, today, $888.30.
$888.30. Okay.
Versus proposal $1,809. That's just the building permit. Plus, I'm looking at another $1,600 in electrical, heat, and air that would be $500 total there.
And what is the square footage of the building?
Roughly 12,000, I'm saying between 11,000 and 12,000.
Okay. Now then, Director Whitten? Now, are there going to be individual fees, like for inspection of the hot water heater? It,
Inspection for those items?
yes. Or will there be one plumbing inspection, one electrical inspection, or is that broken down? I seem to recall having seen that there was a,
Section 10, Section 11, and Section 12 are the sections that deal with electrical services, mechanical services, and HVA services. And
how have they changed?
some of those fees for inspections, for re-inspections, and the cost per square foot of the permit have gone up. One of the items that we did propose was basing the mechanical, the electrical, the plumbing permits on the square footage of the building instead of each individual element that may come in. We ran into a situation, particularly in residential, where contractors would call in and say, we're putting in electrical that has this many services, this many plugs, plumbing fixtures that have this much in it. A lot of times those were true. There were some instances where those were not exactly the items and the numbers that were put in. And over the course of the construction, as you all know, sometimes the scope of the project changes where let's increase, let's add, some things change. Some of the cities we looked at had a base fee of a cost per square foot of building for mechanical, for electrical, for plumbing. One of the things that the group inside the building, the Public Works Department looked at was to go with just a simplified process where it's a certain fee per square foot, in this case 5 cents a square foot, for a mechanical permit that deals with heating, air, electrical, and plumbing, and that would just be simplified across the board, easy to calculate fee based on the square footage of the building instead of all the components that go in.
So you said a 5% increase?
Well, no, ma'am, it was a 5 cents per square foot.
5 cents.
Per square foot.
And does that cover that fee, no matter how many times they have to come back out to make sure that it's done right?
If there's, no ma'am, there is a reinspection fee. If the inspector comes out and sees that there's something that does not meet the code and red tags it or does not pass that inspection, if they have to come back out to reinspect that, there is a fee for that.
How often does that happen?
It depends on the quality of the contractor. To say that I've studied 10 different houses to see how often that happens, I'd be lying if I told you that I had that data. But yes, there are occasions where things do not pass, the contractor has to go and fix things, and the inspector has to come back out to do that reinspection.
Mr. Whitten, do you have a percentage? Was this new proposed fee chart, was it like 5% increase, 2% increase, or was it just each one looked at individually?
Each of these fees that the Public Works Department charges were from planning and zoning through all the inspections, through all the permits. Those were all looked at individually. There were several people in the Public Works Department, including members from Code Enforcement, Building Inspection, myself, the Assistant Public Works Director. We spent quite a bit of time going over the fees that we charge. We looked at how some of the other cities in the area, and those ranged from cities that are a lot larger to some that are smaller. We looked at cities on both the Texas side and the Arkansas side to get kind of a cross-section of the area. We found some that did have the price per square foot for mechanical and electrical plumbing permits. And we found several different ways that several different cities calculated building permits. So we looked at the fees that for residential, for new construction and major additions, we ARC, and it's in this proposal, a cost per square foot. And that's consistent with what some of the other cities have done. For commercial, it is based on the cost of construction, similar to the permit process and calculation that we have today.
On the cost?
Yes, ma'am.
Commercial. And how does one determine that? Is
Well,
it stated by the builder?
When the builder comes in to see us, he will have a projected construction cost of what this is going to be, using the The formulas that are in section 4 of what you have in front of you, there's a breakdown on how that's going to be calculated.
Could you name off some cities that this rate increase are in line with in the surrounding areas?
Across the state line on the Texas side, our fees are still going to be lower than theirs. I couldn't tell you the exact percentage. Some of them are going to be half of what they have. We looked at Jonesboro, Arkansas, who had a fee structure with the cost per square foot that was similar to what we were looking at. I believe it was, and I don't have all of that stack in front of me right now, we looked at Fayetteville or Fort Smith, I can't remember which one of those it was, that basically took the square footage of the house and applied a construction cost to it per square foot for their area, and said if you're between $1,800 and $2,500 a square foot, the estimated construction cost is $80 to $90 a square foot. We're going to apply that and tell you what your rate is.
Is that a reasonable to assume in this day and age, $80 and $90 per square foot?
I would think so, yes, and I think that's a conservative number.
Do you have people that call in and say that's a lower number, that they're going to build that building at a lower number?
Well, some of the information that the builders gave me was that it depends on whether or not it's a custom project or a spec project. Because when contractors who came to the office that were building a spec house were estimating their fee at their cost of construction, so that when they sold it, they were making retail off of it, a pretty good markup at $80 or $90 a square foot. But they bought the permit based on their low number that they gave us. The custom jobs that came in that had $80 or $90 a square foot for construction cost, a lot of those were in line. So when we met with builders across for a builders meeting several months ago, we expressed our concern to them about that, and that's when we were told, yes, if it's a spec job, when I come to tell you my estimated construction cost, it's a low number. When I come to you with a custom job that I'm building specifically for someone, the price is higher. And for very similar square footage of houses, the numbers were quite different. For instance, I have a 2,600 square foot house that one person spec'd out at $52 a square foot when they told us the construction cost based on the square footage. And I have some other houses that are here's an 1,800 square foot house that the construction price he gave me was at $73 a square foot. So the difference is, it depends on who they're building for. So what we did was we looked at, based on the square footage of the house, here's the fee. That way it doesn't matter if it's a spec job or it's a custom job. It's based on the square footage of the house.
How long does it take to do an inspection, electrical inspection or a plumbing inspection?
I don't know.
5 minutes?
No, I would say it takes longer than that. I mean, the inspector's going to go through and he's going to look at the wire, going to look at the box, he's going to look and make sure that it meets the code. I would be lying if I told you that I sat there with him with a stopwatch. Kind of depends on the level of construction of the house. Sometimes I would assume it depends on the contractor. Those that he's familiar with and worked with before, I'm not going to say it gets an easier walkthrough, but familiarity sometimes, he can walk through and get a good idea of what he's done. But I would venture to say that the inspection department is thorough with what they do. I don't know how long it takes him to do the inspection of an 1,800 or 2,500 square foot house.
Well, I'm okay with the increase personally, just to be on record, to keep people honest. I don't know where I was. I don't know if I was sleeping, but I would like to know, because people, they make mistakes, and if they have to call for a reinspection, how much is that going to cost?
20, it's, what were the sections I just gave you, 11, 12, and 13, 13, 14, and 15. $25 for a reinspection fee. Some of the reinspection fees vary. Some of them the contractor may have, you're right, it's inadvertent. He may have missed something. He may have forgot something. He may have just done something bad. But there's some contractors out there that might rely on the inspector to tell him exactly what he needs to do and how he needs to do it. And that's not the purpose of reinspection and do it, you know. When the inspector goes back out there to do a reinspection, yes, is to make sure that it was done right. But there's been some instances where even the re-inspections were wrong and they've had to come back and do it again. Where a contractor might be looking for the inspector to just guide him along the way for construction of the house. And I don't think that's the purpose of the building inspection department. We're going to check to make sure that it meets code, not instruct the contractor on how he might do that.
Overall, if you were to take a 2,400 square foot house, what would just, now, we're not holding you to this, but if you were to give a guesstimation, how much of an increase will these fees generate above what it would have previously generated?
Well, it's going to be, with it being on a square foot basis, a 2,500 square foot house is going to be on a different basis than a 1,500 square foot house. You know, for instance, on a 2,500 square foot house right here, the total increase with all of the permits was $304. On a 1,800 square foot house, this particular one I'm looking at, the increase was $60. Here's a 1,300 square foot house where it was $37 cheaper
Because it was smaller.
because it was smaller, and when you base those on the square footage of the house, the permit fee is less than what we were charging today. The proposed is less than the existing.
Is there any other question from a member of the board?
I got one.
Yes, sir.
On certified occupation, you got resident $25, you got non-resident $30. What does that mean?
What section? are you looking at?
Occupational,
Yeah, on section 5.
Section 5. Oh, certificate of occupancy. For a certificate of occupancy for a residential building is $25, for a non-residential is $30. Construction is complete, to get a certificate of occupancy that said everything is good, you're approved. That's the case. Sometimes we have to do walkthroughs. We had one of those this morning where a commercial property was going to change hands. There had to be an inspection and a walkthrough in order for Texarkana Water Utilities to provide water to the new owner from the existing owner so the property can sell. So the inspection department had to do a walkthrough to make sure that they were within code and get a certificate of occupancy to accommodate Texarkana Water to allow commercial water to be transferred.
Oh, but the resident, that's an added situation or not? Or that's something new, or that's something that the public work been doing for a resident?
hasn't there always been an occupancy?
I believe there has, but let me, if you'll give me just a moment.
I'm not saying for non-resident, I'm not saying for commercial, I'm saying for resident.
Residential occupancy.
There has always been one, it's just the residential is for new construction.
It's for new construction.
Yes, ma'am.
I think maybe Ms. Lee has answered that. Did
Yes,
she
there is
answer
a,
that
there's
for
always
you?
been a
Okay.
fee for a certificate of occupancy.
If there is no other question,
Mayor, I have one.
I'm sorry. Would you like to ask another question?
Have a comment?
We will give you, we can't give you 5 more minutes, but, well, you can ask because we are ready to take a vote on this. And Mr. Whitten, if you'd like to stay close.
I'm not going far.
Okay, good.
I did a comparison of Jonesboro on my situation. My fee, the same building, costs $3,120. Now, that gets me all my plumbing stuff too. The inspections fees are included in there, but they actually have 7 cents a square foot, but that includes the inspections. Texarkana, Arkansas, my 3609 permit is already $500 more than a city much larger than Texarkana, Arkansas. On top of the 3609, I have to pay for the plumbing, each sewer tap, every fixture and all that. So my 3609 is actually going to be more than that because I've still got the old plumbing items per the sewer tap, the hot water heaters, all that. That's still there. Your current fees are still there as it relates to plumbing. The only thing changed in that is now the base fee goes from $25 to $600 in my situation. Now, the electrical, heat and air is all covered by the 5 cents a square foot. There's no per drop or whatever on that. But my plumbing for my gas and all that, I'm still gonna have to pay for every drop there. So you're looking at several $100s more than the 3609. Whereas in Jonesboro, my 3120 gets me all that. So anyhow, I just thought I would come to the city board and ask for maybe a little more study of this before. Again, my issue is mostly with commercial, not the residential. That best I see that's pretty much in line with what the other cities do. But my concentration, my focus was as it relates to the commercial aspect because I have property I'm trying to make my building with.
Right.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Strictly 5 cents for all the drops and other fixtures.
Could you clarify,
Wait.
could Jeff Whitten?
We have a question from our attorney.
Sure.
I had a memory, in addition to the Section 8 deletion, you had another correction, and I've looked for my notes from the last meeting, and I don't have them. Was there something else?
It had to do with a conditional use permit being tied to an annual fee, and in actuality, that was not in here.
Okay,
And
okay,
that was my mistake for bringing that up and saying that it did not need to be. It was already not in there.
perfect.
Back to clarify, what was discussed and at least intended with the plumbing code was, it will be 5 cents a square foot. That you're not being charged for the extra drops, you're not being charged for the water heater connections, it's not based on fixtures or drops. The plumbing, the plumbing permit is based on square footage of the building.
Well, I think that absolutely needed to be clarified.
Yes.
And I think that's the way it should be. I would be concerned also.
Yes, because we're not gonna do electrical where it's this much a square foot, plus all
Plus
the other
counter.
AMP services and things like that.
Right.
5 cents a square foot.
Well, I did see
the plumbing
that
is gonna
with
be-
so much for hot water heater and.
Right,
I saw the same.
that's not gonna
thing
be
you
the
did.
case. Now, if you were doing a remodel job, where you were gonna be remodeling existing space, then yes, the individual connections like you're talking about would come into play. But for brand new construction, these 5 cents a square foot for the different fees is what would be applicable, permit fee.
I think that may have helped a little bit, Mr. Jewell. You might want to make sure you check with him afterwards. All right, would you please, have you read it already?
Yes, ma'am.
He's already read it. This is our third reading. All in favor? Are we ready to?
It sounds like where you are is you would look for a motion to adopt,
Okay,
with the exception of Section 8, and if it were so adopted, it would just appear Section 8 is intentionally omitted, and I would not renumber these.
all right. Now then, would you call the roll, please?
I think you're still
We
looking for a
need
motion.
to still have
Yes,
the
ma'am.
motion. Do we have a motion?
I make a motion to adopt deleting without Section 8.
And there's a motion and a second that we adopt this ordinance. Would you call the roll?
Teeters,
Yes.
Harris,
No.
Odom,
Yes.
Peavy,
Yes.
Maybell.
Aye. Do we have enough on that to pass?
That's cool.
All right, we have the 4. Number 10, adopt an ordinance to amend Chapter 9 of the Code of Ordinances of the City of Texarkana to revise fees. Finance Director Tyronda Henderson. Would you like to speak to this?
Good afternoon, Mayor Bell, Board Directors, Acting City Manager, Ms. Sawyers. At this point, this would simply be a repeat of the last meeting, and it's just to provide additional clarification if you all have any questions.
Are there any questions from any member of the board? Are there any questions from anyone in the audience? Thank you, Ms. Henderson.
Thank you.
This will be on the second reading. Do I have a motion that we put this on our second reading?
Move as read in abbreviated form.
I will move that it's read in its abbreviated form. Do I have a second? There is a second by Director Odom. Would you call the roll, please?
Teeters,
Yes.
Harris,
Yes.
Odom,
Yes.
Peavy,
Yes.
Mayor Bell.
Aye.
An ordinance amending section 9-12 of the Code of Ordinances of Texarkana, Arkansas to make clarifications and include annual commercial fire permitting and for other purposes. Fire alarm permitting and for other purposes.
This will be read at our next meeting, the third time, and it will be voted on at that meeting. Number 11, adopt an ordinance amending certain procedural provisions of the Code of Ordinances of the City of Texarkana and for other purposes. This will be our second reading. This was put on at the request by me because it's causing, we have had some recent meetings where we were subjected to hearing an ordinance that was 19 pages long, and there was no second for it. And this is taking up valuable time. These people are giving their time. My city staff is away from their jobs to come to our meeting, and we wanted to clarify and make our meeting go a little more smoothly and utilize those things that we have at hand, which are our policies and procedures manual, to maybe rectify some of these problems. This is put on its second reading. Do we have a motion to put this on the second reading?
I make a motion, we put it on the second reading in abbreviated form.
And is there a second? There is a second by Director Teeters. Would you call the roll?
Teeters,
Yes.
Harris,
Yes.
Odom,
Yes.
Peavy,
Yes.
Mayor Bell.
Aye.
An ordinance amending certain procedural provisions of the Code of Ordinances of the City of Texarkana, Arkansas, of the City of Texarkana and for other purposes.
Okay, this will be read the third and final time next meeting. Now, I am asking, and this is something that the board will have to approve, I'm asking that item 12 be removed from this agenda and placed on our next meeting's agenda. The reason being, our city manager is absent. He is well-versed in all aspects of this, and I feel that questions could be answered more clearly, and we would have less time discussing this item if it were placed on the next agenda. Do I hear a motion, or I will make a motion that we remove item number 12 and place it on the next meeting's agenda? Do I have there is a motion and a second. Would you call the roll, please, Ms. Nards?
Teeter,
I would like to, based on, you mostly gonna have 3 readings of this, are you planning on doing it all in one night when it's coming?
Well,
One
it
day?
says the ordinance requires an emergency clause, and an emergency clause requires a separate and distinct vote of the board and is valid only if there is a 2/3 vote of approval by the board. So, number one, we don't have 2/3, I mean, we could, but it would be pushing things. And as I said, I'm sure there's some people in this audience today who have some questions.
Okay.
And I would feel more comfortable if our city manager, who has studied this, along with some of the other members, I know that Ms. Sawyers has studied this, but I think after speaking with her, she would feel more comfortable were our city manager present, as would I. So, are there any other questions?
But that's, the question I was asking, is this planning on, when we start this, is this gonna be done all in one night, or in one session, or is it gonna be done in 3 readings? That's the question that I'm asking, and based on that, if it's done into 3 readings, I wouldn't think there would be a issue starting tonight, but if you're planning on at the next board meeting to do it all in that night, then I can see you kind of moving it to the next board meeting. So that's the
Well,
question
and that
I'm
was
asking.
mainly, since this was a request that there be an emergency clause, I'm assuming that there's some justification for putting that requiring this emergency clause, and we don't know what that is. So I feel like if our city manager is here, he would be able to explain why that there is an emergency clause. So this is my proposal, and I have a second on it. Would you call the roll, please? Jenny?
Teeters,
Yes.
Harris,
Yes.
Odom,
Yes.
Peavy,
Yes.
Mayor Bell.
Aye. So we will put this item, number 12, on our next month's agenda. Number 13, consider the following. Adopt an ordinance to rezone the south side of Arkansas Boulevard in the 14 to 1700 blocks from O1 Office Quiet to C3 Open Display Commercial Zoning District. Ms. Beck, would you please address this issue?
Good afternoon, Mayor, Directors. Click the lid. It's not unusual to have a rezoning for commercial development. However, it is unusual to have 3 property owners with property already developed to request rezoning. After being contacted by Attorney Carl Kent, he's here today, as an agent requesting rezonings, we revisited the zoning on Arkansas Boulevard, just east of Jefferson, to see what the situation is. So, here are the 3 original rezoning requests. The first thing was to look at the area to see the context, as we always do. And the property located at 1600 and 1702 where the rezoning request was. On Arkansas Boulevard, one of the high-traffic arterial roads in the city, there's adequate access to sewer, water, and the surrounding zoning is O1, C1 General Commercial, C3 Open Display Commercial, and it backs up to a residential zone, which is typical for commercial. In this instance, these properties have a buffer of a water canal behind them as well, and part of the way is 39th Street. What we found was, let me go back to that slide just a minute. The zoning recommendations in 1988 were given as part of the long-term development plan, and the city has operated on that ever since. So we haven't had an update, as usually, you know, every 10 years you want to relook at things and see how they're developing. And at that time, we had the loop, which was anticipated to be a high-traffic corridor, be actually part of what would become the interstate. And it was anticipated that there would be a lot of commercial development by that exit. Whereas closer to Jefferson, this is Jefferson, Arkansas Boulevard, Sanderson, and what was the loop? It's now Fairgrounds Parkway. So this light blue is office zoning recommendation, the dark blue is commercial. So you see, that's kind of what was anticipated. This is traffic, and it's published by the MPO. We have the director here today, coincidentally. But we can see that the traffic really didn't develop that way. There's higher traffic east of Jefferson than what we anticipated. And it stayed the same around the exit that was closer to Sanderson. So what we wound up with is, here we have this higher commercial zoning where there's a couple restaurants and a dollar store, a law office, social services, a warehouse, a church, and residential. And over here where we have this office zoning, we have 5 restaurants, a technology office, medical and dental offices, some other offices, gas station, convenience store, 3 banks, an auto detail shop, a cake shop, dollar store, oil changer, and then some insurance offices, and there's several new businesses up where County Market was. So, seeing that that was an area that has a higher, not only development of commercial so far, but potential development. And looking back at 2003 and 2004, these were all rezonings from that original 01. So what the staff decided to recommend is rezoning this strip from 1414. Well, first we talked the property owners. This is the fishbowl. This is the medical clinic, and these are all our offices here. These are, functioning businesses. Lots of times they're vacant. When we have people looking for potential business locations, and they look at an 01, what they discover is that the only thing they can put there is an office. An 01 can actually go in a neighborhood, in a residential zone. So they have to do one of two things. They have to get a conditional use permit, like the restaurant had to have a conditional use permit, or they have to apply for a rezoning. And because this trend of a need for commercial development along this expensive and adequate roadway with all the facilities, we're asking, and the Planning Commission has recommended, that this be rezoned to C3.
All right, now what does C3 include?
C3 includes just about anything as far as commercial zones go. These properties are landscaped, they're well developed. The property owners are invested in them and in keeping them at in a state of use that ensures their investment will be protected. The C3 across the street, you have the Sonic, an oil changer place, Big Jake's, and a technology office. None of these things are having a negative impact. They're actually drawing traffic. The two highest increases that I noticed in this area were right off the Jefferson exit. You have more people exiting because of the convention center and the water park, and some of them go south. And then also over by the airport, which we explain that probably as being industrial. But for commercial use, right here, and also on the east side of county might be something that could be looked at. But we just feel like, because we haven't had a comprehensive plan update, and this is something that would have been done had it had an update, that it's...
Have you had any objections to this rezoning? Have any of the,
None whatsoever. We notified 46 property owners. We had telephone calls from these two property owners,
from,
and they were asking, this is Blue Cross Blue Shield, and this is Chicken Express. And they said, well, what's going on? Where are you rezoning to? And we told them, and they had no objections. That's really the comments that we've had. There's not been any concerns about that. Yes,
I
ma'am.
have two questions. Those two that are going to stay C1, did they not ask to be included to go C3? The Chicken Express and the Blue Cross office right there?
No, they didn't.
Okay, so when they knew it was going C3 beside them, they didn't request to be included in that at all?
No,
Okay.
no.
And my second comment, the ones that are butting up against Forest Park, which is the band, the Greenwood, all of those, there's already an existing fence there and the concrete Nix Creek, correct?
Most of the area has a solid fence. I did notice that there were some areas that were not totally fenced, as I originally thought. But there is a water canal there. You have about a 70-foot or more buffer, except that building there. That's an accessory building. I think it doesn't have an address on it. But you have more than a typical just back to back. It doesn't back up immediately.
Exactly. Most of them are
It's
parking
on the
lots,
property.
and then a fence, and then the next creek area, and then 38th Street.
Well,
Correct.
39, yes.
39, okay.
Yes, ma'am.
All right. Thank you.
Yeah, so, Mr. Kemp is here, if you have questions for him. He initiated this originally because his daughter has finished her
Daughter-in-law.
training as a veterinarian, and they want to put a clinic there, and that requires a conditional use permit, which you'll still have to have. But they could not have gotten that in an O1 zone, even with a conditional use permit.
Well, now, will animals be kept? Maybe we need to ask her there, in the clinic, or will it be for treatment facilities only? Okay, so they're not going to be housing horses or donkeys or anything like that? All right. Are there any questions from members of this board? Are there questions from any member of the audience? Would you like to read the,
Is it the pleasure of the board that I read the entire legal description, or perhaps we read it in
Move
abbreviated?
that be read in abbreviated form.
yes, there's a motion that
Second.
it be read in its abbreviated form. Would you call the roll, please?
Teeters,
Yes.
Harris,
Yes.
Odom,
Yes.
Peavy,
Yes.
Mayor Bell.
Aye.
An ordinance amending ordinance number K 286 as amended, declaring an emergency and for other purposes.
Okay. Shall we vote on this? And since this comes from the Planning Commission, and our city planner has recommended this change, is it your desire that we take a vote on this? Do I have a motion?
No, I'm trying to say they still gotta have to be read in three forms, Mayor. So
Okay.
You still have to read it two more times before you vote.
Okay, do we want to put it on the second reading?
So moved.
All right, we have a motion to put it on its second reading in abbreviated form. Is there a second?
Second.
There's a second. Would you call the roll, Jenny?
Teeters,
Yes.
Harris,
Yes.
Odom,
Yes.
Peavy,
Yes.
Mayor Bell.
Aye.
An ordinance amending ordinance number K 286 as amended, declaring an emergency and for other purposes.
Is there a motion that we put it on its third and final reading
Move that the rule be further suspended and place the ordinance on third and final reading.
in its abbreviated form? And there is a second from Director Odom. Would you call the roll?
Teeters,
Yes.
Harris,
Yes.
Odom,
Yes.
Peavy.
Yes.
Mayor Bell.
Aye.
An ordinance amending ordinance number K 286 as amended, declaring an emergency and for other purposes.
Is there a motion to adopt this ordinance?
Motion to adopt.
Is there a second?
Second.
There's a motion and a second that we adopt this ordinance. Would you call the roll, please, Jenny?
Teeters,
Yes.
Harris,
Yes.
Odom,
Yes.
Peavy,
Yes.
Mayor Bell.
Aye. This ordinance is adopted. Now then, to enact the emergency clause requires a separate vote. Do I hear a motion that we enact the emergency clause?
So moved.
We have a move to enact the emergency clause. I need a second.
Second.
There is a second. Would you call the roll, please?
Teeters,
Yes.
Harris,
Yes.
Odom,
Yes.
Peavy,
Yes.
Mayor Bell.
Aye. The ordinance has passed and the emergency clause has been adopted. Number 14, adopt an ordinance to rezone a large rural tract of undeveloped land from R1 Rural Residential to R1 Rural Residential Overlay District. Mary, do you wish to address this for us?
If we can take a look at the map here. We were contacted by a property owner through her agent, her mother, who's here today, Anita Peterson, prior to agenda closing about rezoning a large tract of land. There's 80 acres. There's some change here. And it's adjacent to the R1 overlay district. It currently is R1. It's surrounded by all residential zones except for this commercial zone, which is just a wooded lot next to the interstate. There's nothing constructed on it or really access to it.
What is that little triangle that's next to the interstate?
It's not part of this property. I think it may belong to one of the adjacent properties to the south.
Okay.
I'm not 100% sure about that. But the city published a legal notice on May 28th and notified 21 adjacent property owners. And we had some inquiries. We've not received any opposition to date. Property is vacant, it's adequately served by city water. There's not city sewer available out there. It would need to be served by septic systems approved by the Miller County Health Department. The site is largely impacted by a floodplain that runs diagonally through it. You really couldn't develop the back of this land without putting some money into it to get to it.
A bridge or something?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Is there not another access to that property from the other side?
No, this is Hastings Crossing,
Okay.
and this is all residential property, and this is I-49.
Right.
So the exit is up here to Genoa Road.
I see.
Yeah.
So this is south of Genoa Road.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, Genoa Road is up here. Hastings Crossing, Will Greer Road is down here.
Right.
And then over this way is Highway 71. The overlay district would allow multi-sectional manufacturing homes on large rural lots. It would not allow a trailer park or a subdivision unless it were zoned specifically for that. The city feels like considering the floodplain property and the fact that there's no objection, it has the overlay on two sides. It has it on the east side and the half of the south side. That this would be a good use. And the planning commission, at their regular June 13th meeting, they reviewed this and certified a recommendation for approval for the overlay district.
So there were no objections?
No, ma'am. No
Good.
objections.
Okay, are we ready to thank you for handling that for me, Ms. Beck? Would you read the ordinance, please?
An ordinance amending ordinance number K-286 is amended and for other purposes.
Okay.
Whereas an application to amend the land use plan was filed with the Planning Commission of the City of Texarkana, Arkansas, requesting to rezone the following tract of land from R1 Rural Residential to R1 Rural Residential Overlay District, the southwest quarter of the southeast quarter and the southeast quarter of the southeast quarter, both being in Section 33, Township 15S, Range 28W, Texarkana, Miller County, Arkansas. Whereas the Planning Commission, after public hearing, has approved said application and recommended that the Board of Directors of the City of Texarkana, Arkansas adopt the ordinance affecting said rezoning requests, and now therefore be it ordained by the Board of Directors of the City of Texarkana, Arkansas, Ordinance K-286 as amended is hereby amended to rezone the above described property in the City of Texarkana, Arkansas from R1 Rural Residential to R1 Rural Residential Overlay District. This is solely a rezoning and no other action, conveyance, or release of interest passed and approved this 5th day of July 2017.
Shall we put this on its second reading?
So moved in abbreviated form.
We have a motion that it be read in its abbreviated form. Is there a second?
Director Harris, second.
Director Harris seconded. Would you call the roll?
Teeters,
Yes.
Harris,
Yes.
Odom,
Yes.
Peavy,
Yes.
Mayor Bell.
Aye.
An ordinance amending ordinance number K-286 as amended and for other purposes.
Do I hear a motion that we put this ordinance on its
Move
third?
Let the rule be further suspended and place the ordinance on its third and final reading.
Is there a second? There is a second from Director Odom. Would you read it in its brief? Oh, would you please call the roll?
Teeters,
Yes.
Harris.
Yes.
Odom.
Yes.
Peavy.
Yes.
Mayor Bell.
Aye.
And ordinance amending ordinance number K-286 as amended and for other purposes.
Do I have a motion that we adopt this ordinance?
Motion to adopt.
Motion to adopt, a second?
Second.
Would you call the roll, Ms. Norns?
Teeters.
Yes.
Harris.
Yes.
Odom.
Yes.
Peavy.
Yes.
Mayor Bell.
Aye. This ordinance has been adopted. Number 15, adopt an ordinance accepting dedication of street right-of-way and a drainage easement for U of A Way road improvements. Mr. Whitten, would you come forward and briefly, as possible, explain what's going on here?
Mayor Bell, as hard as this sounds to believe, the right-of-way for U of A Way, as it currently stands out there, was never dedicated to the city. The property is currently owned and used by the University of Arkansas system for UAMS and UACCHD. This is simply an easement for the right-of-way and for two small areas for drainage. These have both been approved by the University of Arkansas system and executed and sent to us, giving us easements that help us use grant funding to build U of A Way.
Sounds like it's cut and dried. Thank you. Well, not dried yet, but
Not
we're
dried
going
yet.
to work and dry it, okay?
Start the cutting.
Start the process. Any questions of the Public Works Director? If not, do I hear a motion that we put this on its first reading?
Move that ordinance be read in abbreviated form.
Second.
Second, would you call the roll, please?
Teeters.
Yes.
Harris.
Yes.
Odom.
Yes.
Peavy.
Yes.
Mayor Bell.
Aye.
An ordinance to accept dedication of drainage easement and right-of-way and for other purposes.
Move that the rule is suspended and place the ordinance on the second reading.
Second.
There's a motion and a second to put it on its second reading. Would you call the roll?
Teeters.
Yes.
Harris.
Yes.
Odom.
Yes.
Peavy.
Yes.
Mayor Bell.
Aye.
An ordinance to accept dedication of drainage easement and right-of-way and for other purposes.
Move that the rule is further suspended and place the ordinance on the third and final reading.
Is there a second?
Second.
There's a second. Would you call the roll?
Teeters.
Yes.
Harris.
Yes.
Odom.
Yes.
Peavy.
Yes.
Mayor Bell.
Aye.
An ordinance to accept dedication of drainage easement and right-of-way and for other purposes.
I now need a motion that we adopt this ordinance.
I make a motion that we adopt this ordinance.
Is there a second?
Second.
There are 2 seconds. So, would you call the roll?
Teeters.
Yes.
Harris.
Yes.
Odom.
Yes.
Peavy.
Yes.
Mayor Bell.
Aye. The ordinance has been adopted. We're at this point in our meeting where we have citizen communication. You do not have had to have filled out one of these cards if you wish to speak. However, this would help. I have one citizen communication card from Mr. Brandon Cogburn. Would you come forward, Mr. Cogburn, state your name, we just said it, and give your address just for the record.
Thank you, Mayor and Directors. My name is Brandon Cogburn. I live at 3 Woodridge, Texarkana, Arkansas. I'm here today about some limbs that are at the intersection, or close to the intersection, of Woodridge and Sanderson Lane. It's north of Sugar Hill, and I've called 3 times. I've spoken to the Public Works Department, I've spoken to the city manager, and I've spoken to the Public Works Director, and the limbs have still not been cut. When you're at Woodridge, you're facing Sanderson, and you look to the north, to your right, there's a hill, so you cannot see what's coming over that hill. When you look to the left, there's limbs that hang out into the street that the city has cut before because you can see where the cut's been made, and so you can't see anything to the left. I took pictures, but they didn't make it up for y'all to be able to see. The pictures, when you look at it, it shows the hill, and when you look the other direction, when you look to the left, there was a wreck there at the time I took the pictures, and there's cop cars there that you can't even see the cop cars because the limbs are hanging out into the street. And then there's another picture that I took just south of the limbs, looking back towards Woodridge, to prove that you can't see the street, much less any kind of cars that are pulling out there. Their Water Springs Ranch, their first little campus, is right there at that same intersection, and they have multiple times a day vans full of kids that pull out of that intersection. And I haven't gone to that side of the street, but I doubt they can see there either. Like I say, I've called multiple times. I know 2 of my other neighbors have called. I just would like the limbs cut. The city, not too long ago, they cut actually a good ways down Sanderson, but then they stopped for some reason. So that's all I have.
Mr. Cogburn, my saw is very dull, but I think that I bet we can get this done.
I appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone else who has, would like to claim your 5 minutes? If not, do I hear a
I make
motion?
a motion that we adjourn.
Second.
Second. Would you call the roll, please, Ms. Narns?
Teeters.
Yes.
Harris.
Yes.
Odom.
Yes.
Peavy.
Yes.
Mayor Bell.
Aye, we are adjourned.